One of the more challenging aspects of the golf swing to perform consistently would be the ability to swing this club around you on a consistent plane or arc. We play golf on a tilted angle where we stand to the side of the ball, and that demands that this club and the hands swing the club around us. Part of that demonstration is the representation of that arc on the ground with the stack and tilt grid that I've drawn here using the T-claw. In today's video, I'm going to extend the grid out of the ground and up into the air to help you see how and where this club head and these hands should swing in order to help you hit more accurate, powerful shots. So let's start with a basic understanding of why we swing on an arc. Well, we play golf on a tilted angle. I'm standing to the side of the ball here, and every single one of my clubs is bent on some sort of angle. That means there's a need for the club, the shaft and the hands to work up, in and around the golfer. We play golf on a tilted angle. We don't play golf on a vertical angle where we're standing on top of the ball and swinging this club in a vertical fashion. So the grid, the two-dimensional drawing on the ground here, the stack and tilt grid, is a representation of that arc. The fact that we swing the club head, which is this outside arc or T-claw, and the hands, which is this inside arc with the T-claw. That's showing how this club works on an arc. And there are boundaries that you should conform to with this arc. You can go too far in, or you could go too far out. I see golfers violate the rules or the boundaries of this swing geometry every single day. But because you're not filming your swing regularly, or you're not sure what to look for, you don't know that you're making this error. I want to show you today how you can practice in a way that helps you conform to this grid. I'm going to share with you exercises you can do if you're guilty of swinging too far in, or if you're guilty of swinging too far up. Some basic checkpoints for you to look for to know if you're doing this correctly or not, just by filming yourself with a camera, would be to check your takeaway. At P2, position 2, where the shaft is parallel to the ground, you tend to want to see the shaft relatively neutral in the sense that the club head and the hands line up quite nicely at this point. You would not want to see the club head excessively in or behind you like this. This would be P2. The shaft is parallel to the ground, but instead of the club head being lined up with my hands, you'd see that the club head is excessively inside. This is a mistake I see a lot of golfers make who read the stack and tilt book. They see the words hands in and they think that means they're supposed to take everything excessively in. This is too much. The checkpoint at P2 would be the shaft and the club head and the hands more or less lined up. Equally, if you were taking the club too far out, you'd stop at P2 and you'd notice that the club head is outside of my hands now. My hands have begun to lift off of the arc or off of the grid. So P2 checkpoints, this is what you're looking for as neutral. If you were more in than this or more out than this, you'd know that this would be an area for you to look at. Secondly, as you continue the backswing and you get to the top of the swing, a really nice checkpoint here is to look for the lead arm. It's my left arm because I'm a right-handed golfer, for my lead arm and my shoulder plane to more or less match. So my left arm and the angle of my left arm is similar to the angle of my shoulder tilt. What would it look like if it was wrong? Well, a hand path or a club path that got too low would see this at the top of the backswing. My lead arm much lower than my shoulder plane or my shoulder tilt. And equally, one that was too upright would have the arms lifting and would have this lead arm much more vertical than my shoulders. This is a mistake I see very, very often. Why do we want to use those checkpoints? Well, let me give you this example. If I was to stand upright, hold the club head out in front of me at head height or chest height in front of me like this in a horizontal fashion and swing the club around me, I'd do so, and you'd probably do this as well. In fact, you can try this at home right now. Grab a club, put it out in front of you and swing the club around you in a horizontal fashion. You'll notice that at the top of your backswing or the end of your backswing, your lead arm is horizontal to the ground, as is your shoulder turn or your shoulder plane. You've moved the club and the arm around you in this fashion. You wouldn't think to do this exercise and just start lifting your arms up in this fashion. That would be strange. Equally, you wouldn't start swinging this around you and just lower your arms for no reason whatsoever. So if you take this club around you in this horizontal fashion and have the lead arm level to the ground and the shoulders level to the ground, and now I just tilt that to the ground, you'll see how this is a backswing that would be on plane. This is the reason we're looking for the alignments to be as I've suggested. So there's a couple of things for you to look for immediately when filming your swing to make sure you're staying on track. And if you wanted to practice to avoid either of those mistakes, I'm going to show you now how to do that. Let's start with the golfer who lifts their arms too much in the backswing. I'm going to use the swing plate here and this extendable stick that comes out of the swing plate to elevate the grid up into the air. So these lines that are on the ground, which are just two-dimensional representations of this swing arc, I'm now going to extend that up into the ground and give me some barriers from which to conform to, meaning this stick is organized and positioned in such a way that if I was to take this club and the hands back and lift them too early, I'm going to start striking this stick. The lifting of my arms would cause me to hit the barrier. So I have this in place to help me understand how to organize and orientate my hand path and my club path in the backswing so that my arms, hands and club continue to work sufficiently around me. I should be able to make a backswing here without striking this stick. If at any point in time I started to lift my limbs for whatever reason and that began to become excessive, I'd start to hit the stick, as I've already said. So missing the stick would be the goal here. Setting up a practice station like this can be incredibly valuable for you to actually understand, possibly for the first time ever, how far around you, how deep and how far behind you your hands and club really need to work in the swing. This is a great exercise for golfers to use if you struggle with slicing the ball, losing power, or pulling the ball even to the left. Typically, a golfer who has an out to in swing path, which would be a swing path that works across the ball in this fashion, that golfer would benefit tremendously from a training station like this, where they're forced to get their arms and club to conform to a lower swing plane. Let me go ahead and hit one, and you get to see what that looks like. I didn't make wonderful contact with that, but it did feel pretty straight. Contact there, as I say, was a little bit thin, tiny little draw, which would be quite normal for my ball striking. Even that exercise for me feels a little bit on the low side because I can be prone myself to getting the arms a tiny bit high at the top of the swing. So I really like this exercise. It's a good one. You'll want to start out slowly to begin with, just to make sure you don't strike the stick, particularly if you're very prone to lifting your arms in your natural swing. But before too long, you should be able to get a sense of how to move the arms and the club under the stick and go ahead and hit the ball. Similarly, just a tiny bit low on the face, but a similar looking shot, predictable little push draw pattern. Great way to practice if you struggle with lifting your arms in the backswing. If you don't have access to the swing plate, I'm going to show you now how you could practice that same exercise using a simple golf towel or golf head cover. Let's grab a golf towel, or in my case, a golf head cover. This is a fairway wood cover, and place it underneath my trail arm, my right arm. So I'm placing it under my armpit essentially, so that the upper arm has to hold or squeeze the head cover to my chest and keep that connection, keep that contact. As I swing back, if I retain that contact between the trail arm and the body, I'm going to be able to keep hold of the head cover, and you're going to see here that the top of my backswing looks like it's very much on plane with my lead arm and my shoulder plane matching. Conversely, if I was to start to swing back and for whatever reason decided to start lifting my arms off my body, you're going to get that immediate feedback of dropping the towel or the head cover. This is an exercise I use very frequently in my own swing, but also in students, and it's something that you'll see expert players like tour players working on regularly with their swing. So it shows the value of connecting the arms and the body and making sure the swing stays on plane. Using something as simple as a head cover can help you to do just that. So give this a try. If you find that you're dropping the head cover, once again, that's going to be a sign that you're tending to lift too much. Keeping this head cover under your arm for the duration of your backswing and downswing and follow through is really going to help you to stay on plane. You can, again, just like the swing plate example, you can go ahead and hit shots using this drill, keeping the head cover in place throughout the entire swing. Really feels like I'm keeping my arms closer to me than I usually would. That one was a little bit better. Again, pretty standard push draw pattern. That's how you would practice if you notice that your tendency is to lift your arms or the club too much in the backswing. If you try this exercise and you drop the cover, you're certainly somebody who could benefit from this exercise. Setting up a practice station or using the head cover drill as I just demonstrated would be something I'd encourage you to do. And if you struggle with the other end of the spectrum, swinging the hands and the club too far around you, creating a very low, flat or shallow swing, then we can set up the swing plate in a different way to help neutralize that swing path and help you hit better shots. I have the swing plate here set on the other side of the ball effectively, creating a barrier for my club so that I can't swing too far in or around me. If I was to, you can see how I'd begin to strike the stick. I'd also recommend when you're practicing like this to put something soft like a pool noodle above or on top of the stick, just to avoid any damage you might do to yourself or the training aid. We don't want any broken clubs and we don't want any broken limbs or any injuries whatsoever. I've set this up in such a way you can see where the stick here running along my target line is just inside the golf ball. I've got my golf ball position just outside of the stick, and then I've got the angled stick coming out of the swing plate set to a fairly similar angle to the club I'm using. So this will move up and down accordingly depending on what club you're using for this exercise. But you could use this exercise with any club. So I want to avoid taking the club too far in, under and around me. I don't want to go under this stick. In fact, on this example, I very much want to go over the top. Now, it doesn't mean I need to lift my arms and take the club outside. I have this set up in such a way where I can conform perfectly to the grid. You see at P2 here, that checkpoint's still available to me where the hands and the club are lined up. And as I continue to the top, I still have the arms in line with my lead shoulder. So I'm not making an opposite move here to get rid of the low swing. I'm just trying to stay on plane, on grid as much as I can. Get a sense of what that feels like. Again, for those of you who are used to swinging the club very low, behind or inside, this would quite likely feel very straight back. It may even feel like you're lifting your arms in order to achieve this. But again, use the video to conform to the swing you're looking for. Use the video to verify if you're staying within the constraints and the boundaries that we're talking about. You have these checkpoints to look for. P2, shaft lined up. P4 at the top of the backswing, left arm matching the shoulder plane. And if you can conform to those checkpoints, the likelihood is you're going to be swinging on a much more neutral path, which will help you hit more powerful, straighter golf shots. That was pretty good for me. I like this training aid or this station for my swing more than the other one, because I do typically tend to swing a little too much from in to out as my pattern. And so this stick doesn't just help me to make a better backswing staying on plane, it also helps me to bring this club down in a way that's more neutral. As I say, my tendency is to get this thing a little too far inside, swing too much in to out, and start curving the balls too much to the left. My swing direction or club path there was much straighter than it typically is. So this is a nice one for me. I do like this. It's certainly, I have much more of a sense that I have to miss something here, as opposed to the first exercise where I had the stick elevated here. It was quite easy for me to swing my arm underneath. So as I say, this one for me is a little bit better. Depending on your ball flight, your typical shot pattern and shape tendencies, you're going to find one of these exercises a little easier to do and the other one's going to be more difficult to do. The one that's more difficult to do is likely the one that you need to do. So one more time with staying above the noodle, trying to straighten out the swing direction, not swing too much from the inside. Let's see what we get. That one felt really nice, probably the best one I've hit so far today. Club path and swing direction relatively straightened out. That for me is a good exercise. The purpose of sharing these drills with you is to help you practice in a way that's productive, a way that actually helps you to make improvements to your game. Start by filming your swing and checking where you fall within the constraints of the model. Where should it be? How do you conform to that P2 checkpoint, and how do you perform and conform to the P4 checkpoint? Once you've got a rough idea of what that is, you can set up these training stations and do these drills accordingly. It will help your golf immensely if you can learn to swing this club and these hands on the grid, on and around the grid, both on the backswing and the follow through. This is the geometry of the golf swing here laid out on the floor. If you learn to conform to it, your shots will become more consistent, they'll become more powerful, and they'll become more accurate. And I think that's something we can all agree we'd like to see. So hopefully there's some useful and practical advice on how to straighten out your swing plane and improve your swing direction using constraints when you practice. Videoing your swing can be the most valuable thing you ever do, checking to see if you're hitting these checkpoints or if you're falling foul of the common mistakes I see golfers making. Building practice stations and controlling the practice environment is one of the best things you could do if you want to make meaningful changes to your swing. Training aids like the swing plate and others that I've featured on the channel allow you to make those changes to your pattern so that you can actually improve your golf swing and improve your golf scores. If you're interested in learning more about the swing plate to help you build these practice environments, I'll put a link down into the description where you'll also get 10% off if you use the discount code. If you enjoyed the video today, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. There's plenty more valuable golf information like this across the channel where I release a new video every week. I mentioned in today's video that there was a recent video I made about the swing direction and how to conform to the grid. A lot of people make the mistake of trying to swing too much from in to out. If that's you, then I'd recommend you check out this video I made next. This explains the difference between swing direction and club path, and I bet 90% of you watching this video won't know what that is.